All right. Good evening. Molo, Sanbonani. Hello, how's it? And Goeienaand, mense, shalom. Welcome to another episode of the Big Daddy Liberty Show. You'll just forgive me if I keep looking in this direction. My little monitor is down here. Welcome to it. This is the Big Daddy Liberty Show, which comes to you every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. I must also just extend my apologies again for not having been on your screens this Sunday, last Sunday that is. There were a few load shedding. It really was just load shedding. And I just figured, what's the point, really? At that point, to try and even put a show out when ESCOM is not working with me. Welcome to it. This is the Big Daddy Liberty Show. Please hit that like button and, of course, share the stream. I think tonight we're going to have a very brief conversation. And again, once again, there'll be no guest. It's just going to be you and me, because the subject matter of tonight is perhaps something which I'm looking to take to the road. I'm looking to take to our rural areas, our townships, our dorpies, and our major centers, and engaging you, the ordinary citizen, in having you, the faith, flag, family, and freedom type South African, express yourself, express your view, express your pain, your misery at exactly what is happening at the moment. That is the current state of things, the economic downturn, that the ever present, the ever going economic downturn that characterizes modern day South Africa. A downturn, of course, which, I sometimes have to jog people's memories, was already well in place prior to the lockdown, prior to the madness that was the spicy cough period. This country has been criminally mismanaged by the political elites. It has been criminally mismanaged by those who continue to push ideas, mainly ideas that are left of the political spectrum. The idea, as lefties hold, that government should do more and more things on behalf of people. A condescending view, indeed, that individuals and really families. I talk a lot about individuals, but really we're a family society, so that the lefty, therefore, views families as incapable of freedoms, and with those freedoms and incapabilities, how they view it, of those families to build wealth for themselves, to gain an income, from that income to build savings, from those savings to build the sort of wealth that can buy ourselves and our children a better quality of life. Lefties don't believe you can do that. Lefties, therefore, don't even want you to have the freedom to try and do that. No. Instead, they want you to be under the control of their politicians, of their elite grouping, a grouping which they argue represents you. But ever increasingly, when you look at how these political representatives act, you quickly realize not only do they not represent you, they simply live a kind and caliber and quality of life that is far removed from you. They are the creme de la creme of society. They enjoy the absolute best, the best trappings of everything. Whereas you and I, right now in particular, and historically, at least for the last 15 to 18 years, are having to make do with less and less and less. Poverty in this country is no stranger to the average citizen. Worse yet, that poverty now comes not only with the lack of having money, but the absolute misery, a grinding misery of there being absolutely no hope. That's the real South Africa. That's the South Africa you and I live in. You and I live in a South Africa where, and I saw this today as I was grocery shopping, and again, I say the word grocery shopping with a pinch of salt, as I was picking up odds and ends. A situation where ever increasingly you're watching people having to think twice. They pick something up, they look at that price, gasp to themselves, look around to see if anybody saw them, and they put it back. That's the reality of ordinary South Africans. South Africans are being made to make do with less, all the while expected to fund the lavish lifestyles of politicians and the political elites in this country. And almost, if you want to call them this, a leech class. They're leeches. They suck the very lifeblood out of us as citizens. And couldn't care less about the actual survival of the host. Like a virus, they are willing to kill the host. All in the rapacious effort to consume as much as possible. And why, you might be asking? Because quite simply, we have a political elite in this country who recognize that their own time in power, specifically ANC politicians and their cronies and their connected cadres, they recognize that their time is pretty much up. 2024 doesn't hold favorable electoral outcomes for the ANC. So what do? What do crooked lefties do? We've seen this throughout history. Once they realize the game is up, once they realize their time or that they're on a short leash, they will steal, loot, pillage, and ravage their way towards eventually exiting. That's if they do choose to exit. That has been the case of almost all leftist, especially hardcore red in tooth and claw communist type leftists. They've always used their period, their twilight years. Is it twilight? Oh, but their sunset years, let me use that expression, as a period to just loot. And we're seeing that. You can't tell me you're not seeing this. Where they've become an elite isolated from the rest of the people. How about, here's a nice neat trick. Here's a neat trick if you think I'm just waffling away here. If any of you are so unlucky to, if you're in some place and you hear a given politician is around, or maybe the president is doing a visit, as he did last week or this past week, at various power plants at Eskom to solve the load shedding crisis. If you're unlucky enough to run across one of these crooked cadres, ask them, what is the price of bread right now? What's the price of a liter of milk, Mr. President? What's the price of let me go for a basic, a staple, a 10 or 12 kg sack of milli meal? That's if you're even still buying about 10 kgs. I'm seeing people downsize even in that regard, buying about 5 kgs, hoping it stretches. How much do those things cost, Mr. President? Can you tell me? Don't even talk about meat. Meat is an absolute luxury in this country. An absolute luxury. I've got some images here because I want to make this point in the sense of, even as I paint this picture, these politicians, not only do they not care, they've even now learned how to monetize, how to make money out of the misery and the poverty that they push upon us as citizens. That's how cynical it's become. They've learned how to monetize our poverty, and our misery. And even as I say that, let me just make sure you guys can hear me clearly. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to go through the comments here. So I'm hoping my sound levels and all that good stuff is totally fine. Okay, yeah, okay, so it is fine. And don't get me wrong, I'm about to conclude, but I wanted to show you, dear South African, that this is an issue that is worth taking up in terms of Project BDL, Project Big Daddy Liberty, where the aim of this channel, as we begin to change it, as we begin to mainstream it ever increasingly, is to take certain ideas into communities that often don't hear them, number one, to raise consciousness about the plight that we endure and the ideas, the bad ideas that are the cause of it. Because a lot of people think, well, I've been watching the Big Daddy Liberty Show or Morning Shot or Man Patreon or any of these other content producers, and you think, oh, but then this is the logical assessment. This is the logical way of viewing things. And the assumption born out of that is, oh, well, everybody sees it. Everybody sees things as being this way. Trust me, people don't. Some people, and sadly, maybe too many people, simply don't understand the link between bad policy, bad ideas, and their standard of living, which is ever increasingly declining, which is why you still see people who do one of two things. Number one, they believe some politician is coming to save them. If not Jacob Zuma, then Cyril Ramaphosa. If not Ramaphosa, Zweli Mkhize. If not Zweli Mkhize, Julius Malema. If not Julius Malema, John Steenhuisen. If not John Steenhuisen, blah, blah, blah. I can go down the line. Most of you do this. You believe there is some Messiah coming to save you. And from that position, you sit back and wait. And it is that sitting back and waiting which is allowing space for these looting, pillaging, ravaging, thieving cadres, crooked politicians, trashy politicians to steal their way towards 2024. That's the one thing people do. They wait for the Messiah. They wait for a political Messiah specifically. Because in a religious sense, I'd love the Messiah to come. Mashiach now, please. I digress. The second thing people do, and it's an and or, is they go, oh, well, I'll just keep voting a certain way. I'll vote my way out of this. Or alternatively, and this is the most frustrating one, oh no, they'll say, it's not the ideas, it's the implementation. The ANC just doesn't know how to implement these ideas, these hard left ideas, or these soft socialist ideas. So maybe it's just a case of voting someone else who will implement them. Maybe I should shift to Black Land First, BLF, whatever the damn acronym means. Or maybe I should shift to the EFF or the PAC or whatever your iteration of leftist politics looks like. Or even some of these trendy woke elite lefties who are now saying, oh, I'm going to step into the fray. I'm going to do what the ANC couldn't do better. I'm seeing them. They're launching books all over the place. And of course, the media loves them because they're from that media. They're part of the establishment. You'll see a lot of them also burgeoning, basically repackaging ANC, which is race-based leftism, repackaging it and arguing they'll be able to deliver it better. It's those two groupings of people who hold on to bad ideas on the one hand and simply think someone else can implement them better, or on the other hand, argue some political messiah is coming to save them. And you would think those people don't exist, but they do. You'd think those people are red-pilled. Maybe they watch content like this, engage it, and see what the arguments are making, but they don't. There's still a lot of work to be done to win people on the battle of ideas. And that's what this channel is going to dig down a bit deeper on. And on the one hand, go back to my roots to an extent, right? Y'all know my roots were being out there in communities, doing this work, pushing these ideas. And maybe to an extent, I've kind of lost my way a bit, where it's just been a focus on the show. But maybe one has to go back to my roots. And I'm speaking like this on purpose because I've been telling you for quite a while, oh, something's coming, guys, something's coming. We're rebranding the show. Monday, we're launching that very new thing. And tonight's topic, which I want to come back to, is essentially the thrust of it. How are you doing, dear South African? How are you faring with the poverty and the misery? How are you faring in a country where the ideas, the prevailing ideas, the prevailing mostly leftist, mostly government-centric, that is communist, socialist, statist, those ideas are crippling your quality of life? How are you faring? That's the question I'm going to take across this country. Because I can tell you now, it's only once we start listening to each other, South Africans, black, white, Indian, Kali, poor, middle class, working class, rich. It's only once we start seeing each other express views that we recognize amongst each other and start seeing that we're in the same boat. Only then can you organize those people into a common, a united purpose, if you will, and then mobilize them to act. You guys often hear me say this, that my formula is to build unity on around a core set of ideas, core set of values. From that unity, organize people, see what we have, what our strengths, what our weaknesses, and from there, understanding that, mobilize people to do something about it. Because I can tell you now, and this is where I'm going to partially conclude just in my last 10 minutes or so, because I've got some images I wanted to show you here. I can tell you now that even as I say this, politicians on the one hand, as I said at the beginning, not only do they not care, they've even learned how to monetize this environment. They've learned how to monetize your misery and your poverty. Don't believe me? Look at how tone deaf the following was. And let me begin with the ANC. Let me begin with the ANC. Here we go. Even in the midst of load shedding, which is 100% caused by politicians, 100% caused by bad policy of the ANC, those same politicians who plunge you and me into darkness in this country, oh no, they gave themselves 2.6 million rand via a one certain minister, Patricia de Lille, to build their own, or to install rather, their own generators, and of course have an endless, effectively an unlimited supply of fuel for those generators. So where you and I are sitting in darkness, at its worst, we're sitting in darkness at 4 hours at a time, 8 hours in a day in stage 6, unproductive, unable to cook, unable to provide for ourselves. These politicians who thrust that darkness on us, oh no, they set aside a cool 2.6 million, probably plus, to make sure they've got electricity, to make sure they can prepare nice warm meals for their kids. Oh, it's nice for them. So that you understand that they've literally monetized your misery. You were sitting cold in winter, dead of winter, miserable in the dark because of Eskom's load shedding. Again, 100% caused by politicians. But no, they monetized it. They said, okay, fudge it. This is an opportunity for us to put a few millions so that we can get something you can't get. Unless you're rich, of course, or if you're in the elites, the political elites at best, specifically. They are monetizing your misery and your poverty. Again, I might not have a file image here, but look at the petrol increase. I think I actually have an image, I didn't. Petrol in this country, that's what I forgot to put up, an image from my phone of, actually it should be on my social media. Give me a second, folks. And maybe as I'm searching here, hit that like button, please. And welcome to the Big Daddy Liberty Show. We're pretty much in the last 5 minutes or so. Because there are certain things that I've really just, I think the word is irked. They've irked me. There's that image. Let me just share it over more. How do we do that? Share screen. Certain things, as I said, which seriously irk me because it shows, it's symptomatic of what I'm talking about tonight, which is politicians have learned how to monetize your misery and your poverty. And the poorer we become, the more of us become more miserable, the stronger almost they become. I think, yeah, there it is. There it is. Let me enlarge it. No, I think that's pretty much it. But I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's the recent, when I was filling up my tank in my buggy, Ufasimba. That's my buggy's name. The tank wasn't fully empty, so there's maybe quite a bit left. About 8 liters technically was left in the tank, and to fill it up cost me just under 2,000 rand, 1,939 rands. That's at a price of about 26 rand 81 cents per liter of diesel here in Cape Town. That's ridiculous. 2,000 rand to fill up my bucket, which begs the question, as I said, how are small businesses faring? If you are a pensioner on a fixed income, how are you affording any of this? South Africans are falling by the wayside. South Africans are becoming ever increasingly poorer. And the political elites in this country, the politicians in this country, are monetizing this misery, monetizing this poverty. How? Tell me, even as we face these record fuel prices, the oil price hike and the like, why is the government, why are these politicians still charging a fuel levy, which is in excess of 40% of the price of petrol and diesel? How is that possible? Why would you monetize something? Why are politicians treating petrol and diesel as though it were a luxury that can be taxed like that? A tax which is not ring-fenced, by the way, to addressing maybe, let's say, the quality of roads or, blah, blah, blah. No. It's money that goes into their coffers. They can spend it whichever way they want. So once again, all the trappings for them, all the best cuts for them, even as they fleece you, they pillage, they loot from you, they are literally monetizing your misery and your poverty. You're becoming poorer, and they're doing so well. That's on fuel. And you would have thought, for instance, as I conclude my thoughts here, you would have thought, they're politicians, so surely they're not tone deaf. They can recognize that, we've just come out of a lockdown they imposed, by the way, a lockdown they imposed, a misery they put on you. You would have think, therefore, coming out of that, no, maybe they're going to read the room and maybe not give themselves, they're already millionaires in terms of their salaries, right? Maybe they won't give themselves a pay increase this year. They'll read the room and realize millions have lost their jobs, millions have been thrust into poverty. 1 in 4 South African, 1 in 5, 1 in 4 South African, is food insecure. Oh no. There we go. As I said, politicians literally are happy to get all the trappings, even as you become poorer, even as you're more miserable. South Africa's millionaire politicians have given themselves salary increases. They gave themselves, I think, just under 3% an increase. Must be nice. Must be nice. So that for me, oh, by the way, before I conclude, it's not just ANC politicians. Politicians. Even some opposition politicians act in this way, which brings me back to my criticism of that second type of individual who says, oh, maybe if I choose another politician who's within the realm, or maybe if I choose another politician who institute these same policies, who implement them. Our politicians across the spectrum, from those in government, pardon me, and those in opposition have shown that they have an almost similar approach to things. They reward political elites. They reward themselves. It's always the best trappings from them. Don't believe me? Remember this? This is an image, of course, that was online when the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, via a one red in tooth and claw commie, Julius Malema, rewarding another elite class in this country, traditional leaders. He was rewarding the king of the, is it Abatembu? You'll forgive me if I got the tribal groupings wrong, but the King Dalinyebo rewarded him with a nice flashy black Mercedes-Benz, nice SUV. You can see it over there. It's very nice. Lots of rejoicing there as they hand over the keys to him. Why were they rewarding him for this? No idea. I have no idea. Do you think the king's subjects in that part of the Eastern Cape live a life where they have 2 chickens in the pot and a car in every garage? Of course not. Of course not. The king is the one who enjoys the trappings there. And again, I'm not knocking the king there. I'm not knocking the king. I mean, I have a healthy respect for my own king, for example, as a Zulu. But there are some questions we need to start asking around, is it just for them to be enjoying all the trappings off of a public purse that is extracted from a poverty-stricken people and an ever increasingly impoverished and shrinking middle class in this country? Is it just? Is it right? Is it justified for them to monetize our misery and our poverty? Because even as I say, 1 in 5 South Africans, I think it's either 1 in 5 or 1 in 4. I could be wrong, but I know the figures around there. 1 in 5 South Africans are food insecure. These people are not food insecure. There it is. Look at that glutton over there. Nom, 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 nom. That image, just it says everything, doesn't it? From the champagne to that look of just gorging himself in a Marie Antoinette-esque type cake. And take it from a fat boy. I know he's enjoying that. So that I don't mean to make light of this topic. This is a very serious topic for me. It registers on a very personal level, where when I look at my own finances and I think, yay, people, am I going to make it to the end of the month? In fact, right now, as things are, gobi, as we say in Zulu, gobi. It's bad. When you're scrimping and scratching at cents. In Zulu, we say, lelo sente le minyama. That doesn't translate really well, but like, it's an expression of if you dig in your wallet and you see to look for money and that dark cent, that black cent, the one that's probably been there for a while. But now you need it in an emergency situation where there's just no money. So that perhaps someone has to knock on the door of politicians, even as they buy generators for themselves and they enjoy the trappings. Maybe someone has to begin knocking on their doors to bring them the stories of real South Africans and what their policies, what their ideas as politicians have done to you, the ordinary faith, flag, family, and freedom type South African. So that maybe that's my challenge now. Maybe this vehicle, the show, this platform, maybe that's what I should be doing for the next few months. Talking to you, South Africans across the breadth and the length of this country, putting together short stories that we can then put to politicians. Politicians at a provincial level, politicians at a city level or town level, and of course, politicians in the highest office and the union buildings. Maybe that's what I want to devote the next few months of my life doing, is putting those stories together and shoving them in the face of politicians are saying, you cannot ignore the plight of South Africans now. Get out of the way, give South Africans the power and the resources and the liberty for us to build the future that we want, free of the political elites, free of the establishment. So look out for that as I conclude, because I can tell you now, countries around the world are beginning to inspire me to do and to lead something perhaps, or to help build something rather, where we begin to take our voices to the political elites. Sri Lanka did it, the Dutch are doing it, the Canadians did it. What's stopping us? Maybe it's time we knock on their doors. Maybe it's time I harass them for an exchange. They're harassing me, right? They're digging into my pocket. They're raping my pocket, in a sense, if I can use that rather graphic image, which feels apt though, because I'm becoming poorer, I'm becoming more miserable, whilst they seem to be enjoying the high trappings, high living. Maybe it's time I shine that mirror in their, or rather put that mirror in their face. Not so much a mirror, but rather that focus of our pain in their face directly. Look out for that. Look out for that. I think I want to make an announcement on that as soon as Monday, as to how I'll be doing that. How we can use this platform, the Big Daddy Liberty platform, to do exactly that. Bringing the ordinary citizen and putting them in the face of the politician. Yeah. And maybe on that note, let me say good night. All right. Good night, folks. And thank you for watching. Sorry for that little random moment at the end. I literally just came to a thought, because I've always said this, and I'll conclude really on this point. No one is coming to save us. We are quite literally on our own. But us being alone, or pardon me, us being on our own doesn't mean we're alone necessarily. What it means is, instead of looking to the politicians, instead of looking to the political elites, instead of looking to the establishment, we need to look to each other. Ignore the noise, crowd out the noise of those evil whites, or those shifty Indians, or those untrustworthy coloureds, or those clever blacks. Ignore the noise that is often thrown at us by the media, the corporate media, and the politicians, and actually turn your ear towards fellow South Africans. Let's ask each other at a ground level, at a family level, at an individual level, how are you doing? What can I do to help you? What can we do, pardon me, to unite? And from that position of unity, coalesce, organize around a set of ideas, values, and customs that can build this nation and build this economy. Ideas of freedom, market economy, elevating the family. How do we coalesce around that? Those ideas, those values, those customs? And from there, how do we mobilize each other to limit the space of those who attack the family, attack the individual, and create space for us, the faith, flag, family, and freedom type South African? It is that South African who I stand for. It is that South African who I want to build a free, prosperous, non-racial, and property-owning society. And with that thought, let me say good night. Thank you very much for watching. This has been another episode of the Big Daddy Liberty Show. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. As I said, this vehicle that is the Big Daddy Liberty Show is going to grow. It's going to become, it's going to relaunch basically on Monday. And I'm going to share more perhaps on this campaign that I want to launch that has us do more of the talking, and really more than talking, more of the acting, the doing, if you will. So look out for it. As I fix my little screen here. And hey, interesting stuff coming. I'll catch you on Sunday for Liberty and Friends at 8 p.m. And look out for a website that's also just developing. So maybe check out www.bigdaddyliberty.co.za. I don't know, something seems to be cooking there, but again, we'll launch everything on Monday, and you'll find out exactly what we'll be doing to push back against the political elites. With that being said, thanks for watching, and remember, as I always say at the end of every show, never trust a commie.